Here's a block of Arches hot press watercolor paper. So this is the 140 pound, 12 by 16, and it's 20 sheets. But anyway, you can buy this paper in these beautiful blocks, and what that actually means is that 3 of the sides of this block are glued down. You can see the black glue right here, which is on 3 sides of this block. There's only a little teeny gap right at the top right here. You can take a palette knife and then you can slip it into this spot right here and then slide the whole way around and your paper will come off. The glue is keeping your paper flat. So the whole point of having the glue there is to, while your paper is wet, the glue will hold the paper flat. So do not remove your paper until after you're done painting. This is a question I've been asked before, so that's why I'm talking about it now. You can buy these blocks in different sizes, so you can see I have a 10 by 14 block. I also have a cold pressed block. So though I usually buy hot pressed paper because it's my favorite, because I like details, I do also buy cold pressed sometimes, and rough is just a little bit too rough for me, but this is a really cute size. You can have this size too. So I prefer to buy blocks for 2 reasons. One, it holds my paper flat while I'm painting, and also the block will be cleaner paper. And if I'm paying a lot for watercolor paper, and Arches watercolor paper is expensive, I do not want to buy dinged and thumb-printed, smudgy, germy paper. So I always buy blocks. I've recently bought these pads. This is just a pad of paper, so it just flips open like a regular pad. I just used this pH neutral acid-free glue, a cheap craft brush, and I used some binder clips, and then I got to make my own watercolor block. So it's for bookbinding, and they do sell padding compound glue, which you can use to make cheap pads at home, but I did not want to use that because I did not know if it was pH neutral or not. I put a thin layer of this glue all around this pad of paper, except for a small gap. And I did use little binder clips on this, and then I let it dry. And what this has done is it's made my own homemade block in this size, and I can actually just use a palette knife like I do with the block and go all the way around this and get this off. So I just wanted to show how you could improvise making your own block out of a pad of watercolor paper, and it doesn't have to be Arches, and it doesn't even have to be watercolor paper. If you want your paper to be flat, you can actually glue 3½ sides of your paper and turn it into a watercolor block, which I thought is actually really interesting. I had an old block that was 7 by 10 and it was all used up, and I had this cold pressed paper, so I just cut it down, and you can see maybe the glue shimmering on it, and what I did was I glued 3 of the sides down. I'm really excited about this because now I've got a whole pad of 20 sheets of watercolor paper in this size again, and it's usable, and the bigger paper I had was just too big for me. I also took the leftover paper that I had, because remember it was a really giant size, and what I had left over was this square, and so this is an 11 by 12 square, and I did the same thing. I put it onto some cardboard, and I piled the paper on top of it, and then I glued 3½ sides of this down with that glue, and then I left it to dry with some binder clips on it. And again, this has made a perfectly good block of watercolor paper, so if you have any loose watercolor paper, this is the way to turn it into a block. I had a spare cover and a spare back, and so I took this cover and I attached it to the top too, but when I use the palette knife, the cover comes all the way off. So if you do want to attach a cover, you want to attach it to your back cardboard. Do not attach the cover to the top like I did, otherwise it'll just come right off. Now I can only like rest it on the top. But these are perfectly good blocks. I think that's exciting because if you buy these small blocks, they're not very economical, and they cost a lot more than if you buy a large block. So you can actually buy a really big block and then cut it down into whatever paper sizes you want. And this might actually be more convenient because if there's a paper size that they don't sell, you can make your own blocks just using this glue. So I've never really heard of this before. I just tried it to see if it would work because I wanted that size paper in a block, and it worked perfectly. So give it a go.